Hello, welcome to this week's DENDAO call. It is March 16th, the day before St. Patty's Day. So happy weekend, everybody. And if you're somebody who excessively celebrates that day of the year, I know a lot of people in my hometown do because we are a college town. Be safe and don't be dumb, and everybody will have a good time. That said, let's have a little meeting here and talk about Den stuff. We have, real quick, the agenda is pretty brief. We've got the auth system to talk about. We've got the March LCP to talk about. I've got a couple of things to mention during at the end of that for community feedback. So let's get into it. If you want to join, there's a link at the top of the page. If you find this in the DENDAO layer on Den.Social, it's the post marked it's titled DENDAO Call 2023 March 16th. Pretty self-explanatory. So there's a link to join at the top of that, the StreamYard link. That'll put you in here with our friend Greg. Greg, how you doing? Thanks for joining.
I'm doing great, man. Good to be here, as always.
I might have to unlock my door and let someone in a second. Just a heads up. Great show we had earlier, World Blockchain Roundtable. That was cool with John Branch. If you missed that, that's one of the better weekly live shows that happen on Den. So thanks for joining us there too, Greg, and for rejoining.
Oh yeah, it was a blast. And the it looks like the numbers are bearing themselves out. I've never seen this many people having already streamed it on Twitter until today. So
yeah, I haven't looked at any metrics yet. I usually wait until the host tells us the following week how many lot people get, and then I'm like, oh, okay, cool, we got that many. But yeah, anyway, go check that out if y'all haven't seen it.
Especially if you want to learn about people's beliefs about pizza, because you can't miss it. Honestly, it's too much fun.
So first thing up is also feel free to chime in chat if you're watching on YouTube or something. If you have any questions to throw in, we'll hit them at the end for the community feedback section. So first thing up, let's check out the LCP. We do this every month. There is a week of voting that happens every month, and we are in that week right now. So there were some proposals that went up that are new additions to the LCP. Find those in the LCP layer, and then you'll see them mixed in now with the proposals that you have to vote on. We've got, Greg, you proposed one, Crypto Joe Rogan. You actually have yours in there. It's actually pretty close to the top now. Got a lot of lore support.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to put that one in. I hope people will support that. The goal is to have conversations that are far-ranging, open-ended, and non-judgmental, so we can bring people in. I mean, if you ever watch Joe Rogan, the only thing that sucks about it is he never has good crypto people on, right? Like,
that's a fair point. Yeah. It's probably hard to do. It's probably harder than we think to do. If you're outside of the industry, trying to find somebody with a qualified opinion to say, hey, who should we talk to? I imagine that's not an easy task, you know.
I mean, he doesn't bring small people on anymore. It's not a thing he gets to do probably, but like, this is going to be sort of a goal to have conversations with people, and you get to really find out a lot about what they think and how they think, and it'll be interesting. So I hope people will support it.
If you want to support it, it is right there to go vote on. Now it's actually got more support. It's got too much support to win in the category of lore. So we do two categories. One of them is by total lore committed, and you can in this category you can vote more than just once. Lore is something that you earn just by using Den. As you use Den, you'll be receiving lore rewards. I think that system is active for like several years going forward before it's all issued, before it's all rewarded out. So just the more you use Den, the more effectively, the more votes you'll get for the LCP. And we do right now number 8 and number 21 by lore committed. It doesn't matter how many unique voters, it's just number 8 and number 21. So Wizards and Wands is in the number 21 slot right now. And then for number 8, we've got the quantum computers layer. Now, on the other category, unique voters, this is the top. The top by unique voters wins this one. So the more support it gets, in that category by unique voters, regardless of how many actual lore votes it's got. The number one spot there wins. So, by the standard rules, you've got too much support in the lore category to win until you get 34 unique voters. However, there are two other rules that go along with the contest. One of them is in the unique voters category, the 5 runners up, in other words, number 2 through 6, when ranked by unique voters, you can still get those created and make them win the LCP and be treated exactly like any other winner of the LCP by paying a fee in matter, which you also earn by using Den. And that is cheaper the closer it was to winning. So the number 2 slot, for example, let's say we stop the contest now, military equipment wins, and true crime is runner up. Well, true crime could still be created if somebody wanted to pay 200 matter as a fee to create it. And then all wrestling would be 400, vegan layer would be 600, and then 800, and then 1,000 matter. The further away you are from being the winner. So that's an option too. And I think I saw 7 as the number of unique voters that you had, right? On the currently for the Crypto Joe Rogan.
Oh yeah, no. I might just have to go out and boost a post about it. See if I can get some people to vote for it.
Yeah, go chat about it a little bit in I don't know, whatever, maybe the cryptocurrency layer or something like that, to talk about it, maybe drum up some interest. But there's actually a third option where, let's say you're not in that top 5 runners up, right? The 200 through 1,000 matter fee based creation. There's another rule where any layer proposal that has at least 8 unique voters can still be made with 2,500 matter. So 2,500 matter will get you anything with 8 or more unique voters. So when you're thinking about which proposals to put your lore into, I guess something I didn't mention at the beginning was that those lore votes, that determines how much ownership of the layer that you get when it's created. It's a 1-to-1 exchange for the NFT tokens, for the lot tokens.
Right.
So when you're putting them in there, it's tempting just to throw your votes into the ones that are closer to the top or that you think are going to win, right? But you have to keep in mind that technically anything with at least 8 unique voters can be created. And when they are created through this LCP process, that is a permanent maximum supply of ownership tokens, and they can't make any more. And so if you want ownership of it without having to find somebody else who has the tokens to buy them from them or swap, then you're going to want to make sure you have a little bit of lore in on the ones that you're genuinely interested in. If it's a topic you're interested in, regardless of where it's placed, make sure you've got some of your lore in there if you want to be an owner of it, because somebody might snipe it when it's still a low unique voter count, and then that's it. So it's a little bit of a mini game on Den. Things to think about.
Absolutely. Well, and for folks who do decide to throw in, it's not going to be a dictatorship. So anybody who wants to come in can expect interesting experiments with governance as well.
Yeah, throw a pitch up in the a pitch post. Explain the. I know you did already in the LCP layer for the proposal itself, but if you wanted
at this point, it is literally the original group is going to be the people who fill in the TBDs. We're going to figure it out together.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. And it's open season, so now's the time to drum up support for it. And if it doesn't win, of course, it stays in there, so it might win next month or the one after.
Yep. I'm plenty satisfied with waiting if we have to, but thanks for giving me the opportunity to show my.
Of course. Hey, you showed up for it, so you get your couple of minutes there. Hey, on that, if you look at the top of the LCP screen, there's a countdown. You need to get your votes in by Tuesday, March 21st, by 10 a.m. Eastern or 2 p.m. UTC. That's when the cutoff is. So effectively, if you're in the US, get it in by Monday night. And after that, we'll find out who wins. So that would be an hour. It looks like it ends an hour before Super Happy Dragon Lucky, so we should be able to get an update from Joe on that show, because the winners will be in by then. So that'll be cool. We'll see what happens there.
Groovy.
We have a new login system on Den is the next topic that's on our agenda. That's live. I've used it. There were a couple of issues in the very beginning. Those have, from what I understand, have been fixed. There are some support messages coming in from people who are still having an issue with it. If you are contacting support, just try to be specific about what the problem is, because with anything that has so many moving parts, such as Den, there's a lot of stuff that like is all working together to make the experience happen. And so make sure that you're specific about what you're having problems with, because that'll allow us to address your issue quickly, and make sure that you're back off to the races. So I just wanted to make a note about that. You can read about that in the Dragon Chain layer. The post that's on screen right now changes to the authorization system. There's some information in there. There's some screenshots about what it will look like if you haven't used that yet. The thing to keep in mind is that if you are someone who uses both Den.Social and the Dragon Chain console, like I do, I'm a node runner for Dragon Chain also, so I log into console quite a bit. This is going to be the same. So right now with Den, the old system, it was a single sign-on to both systems. It is no longer a single sign-on, but it still is the same account, if that makes sense. So when you change your password on Den, it'll change it for you on console. Or if you go to console first and it prompts you to change your password there, it'll change it on Den for you. And any other questions, contact support. Just be specific about what's going on. So,
yep. And if you have bad luck using it or doing it with the mobile browser, then or with the mobile app rather on iOS in particular, I don't know if the same is true for Android, but probably try it in a desktop browser or even a mobile browser that has strong desktop support features that the system browser doesn't have.
Good point. Good point. The app, the mobile app, might have more issues than the website does. Part of that is because we're not allowed to do certain things in the app, and so we had to make it a different experience than Den. It doesn't have everything. It's not like the full Den thing. It's more of a, I consider it a convenience tool. But that said, if you're having any issues with the mobile app, let us know what that is. But use the desktop browser, or a mobile browser will work too. I used the mobile browser, I think, whenever I changed my password, and it worked out. That's going to send you that's going to get you to reset your password. It's going to send it to your email. You put in the authorization code, standard stuff. So should be pretty straightforward on that. All right. So community feedback. Juicy J, thanks for joining us. Let us know if you have any questions. I see you over there in the chat. I've got 2 posts I want to bring up. So one of them is a leaderboard update for Den activity and the return on token. I call it lot rot just because it rhymes and I think it's funny. This is the same leaderboards that I posted probably like a month ago at this point, right? And it's got stuff like top. I changed the terminology. I called them miners because effectively you're mining matter in the layers. But these are all roles combined, every role of a denizen. If you've seen that roles of a denizen ad that runs sometimes, you can be a content creator, you can be a layer owner, you can be an evaluator, there's even undefined roles that like advertiser or referrer. These are all different rewards pools that you earn from. Tagging is actually rewarded. So all the different ways to earn rewards combined is what this leaderboard is made up of, right? And I've just got it broken down into just one day, yesterday, past 7 days, last month, the last quarter, the last year. And so that's top 20. And if you want, you can compare where you landed today versus where you landed in the previous post. I think I probably have them both linked at the top of this one. Yeah. initial leaderboard and the evaluator taggers. Cool. So let's scroll down through this real quick. There's the top 20 matters. Congrats if you made a leaderboard. That's awesome. And in different categories, you'll notice that a year ago, we talked about this on Wednesday on the coffee show a little bit. If you look at stuff from a year ago versus now, there's differences based on people's behavior, but also based on the new evaluator reputation system, I think, is helping out there a little bit too. So the idea is to mix it up a bit and create a more what's the word? Competitive environment as far as a prediction marketplace, content prediction marketplace as a concept. This should help with that. So should be a friendly competition. You shouldn't be getting mad that somebody scored better than you do or something like that. But the idea is, to see like, oh, okay, here's where I rank based on what I've been doing. And it looks like I took the number 5 spot. So far out, probably because of the Coffee with Den show landed on a Wednesday, I would say.
That's awesome. I'm personally excited to go out and see who some of these folks who I've never met are that are posting a lot and doing a lot of stuff. So
yeah, I hadn't thought about this, but I could actually make those names into a link to go to their page, so you can see what they've been. Like if they rank high, you can be like, oh, what are they? They might just be because they've been really good evaluators or something, but usually, it's because they're posting interesting content and stuff too.
Yep, a good evaluator is typically a good content creator. So
maybe I'm neither. I don't know. So let's scroll down some more. There's the rest of this is like new posts in different time. I think the same time frames. Just overall new posts, not the replies, just the post. New accounts created. So you can see we've had 20 more accounts just this month in the 2 weeks that we've been in this month. So far this year, we've had 42 new denizens sign up. So that's pretty cool to check out. There is some other stuff like layer chat. Nobody really uses the chat rooms on Den, to be honest, but there's the top 5 as far as activity in the layer chats. These are able to be ranked pretty easily just because literally every message, everything you type in layer chat is an individual transaction that is on Den's chain, but also proven out through Dragon chain into Bitcoin, Ethereum, and BSC. So you're able to literally just say how many transactions went through chat and then rank them. So that's pretty cool.
Neat.
Same thing with DMs. I don't have to know who's sending the DMs to ask how many DMs have been sent in total, because it's just a type of transaction to count up, that kind of thing. We do have an issue right now with DMs and layer chat, but DENDAO is working on it and figure it out. Thanks for reporting that, by the way. And then finally on this page, there's the lot valuation, the lot rot, or the layer ownership token rewards. And that is a long list that you'll have to peruse through yourself, because it's just like all the layers on Den on a table. And there's 2 values in there. One of them is how much if you held one single lot token, keeping in mind the lot supply is different for each one of the layers, right? So one lot might be 1% of one layer, or it might be 1,000th of a percent of a different layer, if it's like the Elon Musk layer or something. But anyway, there's matter per lot if you look at the layers. And that tells you if I held one lot, how much matter would I have earned over the past 90 days. So all of those are calculated based on 90 days. And then the other one is total to the whole layer, right? So how much lot has been given out. For example, conspiracy theories is one of the only layers, if not the only layer, that mandates anonymous posts. You're not allowed to say who you are in that layer. This is something that any layer has control over, that they can change to make it to where you can't say be anonymous, you can be anonymous, or you can only be anonymous. Reason that ranks higher, and I think it's great that it ended up so high on the list. It's ranked, by total matter to the layers. It's because when you post anonymously, literally Den's system doesn't know who to reward. So 100% of rewards for that piece of content goes to the layer owners that own the lot tokens. So it's an interesting way to make lot more valuable if there's a reason for it, or if it goes with the sort of the vibe of the community that you're creating. So check those out. And on a personal note, I've got a couple of things to catch up on in the new marketplace layer that came out last month through last month's LCP. I did sell some lot based on this. I, was able to come up with a way to, a starting point for, value. How do you say it? Valuation of the lot that I hold. And yeah, so go check out Marketplace if you want to see who's got extra lot that they want to sell, because some of us have started basing that on this and offering them up. I got to catch up. I know Hyperion Frequency, I owe you some, and either Alxons or I forget who it is now, but maybe GPS Crypto or somebody. One of you, I owe some music lot to.
So if somebody buys lot on OpenSea, does it automatically show up, or is there any process that people have to go through to get it to appear?
It automatically shows up, except when it doesn't. There's yeah. So if you bought something on OpenSea, which I think you said you did, and it did not show up for some reason.
I'm asking because I'm asking for a friend, wink, wink.
Yeah. So yeah, it'll automatically show up unless it does not. If it does not, just contact support, and it's pretty straightforward for you to sign a message saying you prove, X Ethereum wallet. If you had, either via email by signing a message, or simply claiming that in the Den wallet interface. So if you contact support and you say, hey, I bought these on OpenSea, they're not showing up in the layer as an owner, I'm not showing up as having governance weight, what's up? We can go figure out why, and we can fix it for you. But yeah, that works for lot on the Ethereum side. That works for Matter and Dragons and Lore, I believe, on the Ethereum side. If you hold them there, they're still counted in your weighting for, like, for example, behavioral weight in DENDAO governance votes, or in the I don't know if I would call it a staking system, but it's basically like it's a staking system based on if you hold X amount of Matter, you get lore rewards. This is where I was saying by using lore, or by using Matter, you get lore that you can vote in the LCPs. There's different things that calculates, and one of them is how much Matter you have. So that works cross chain between Den internally versus holding them in a cold wallet. But yeah, all that stuff should work if it's in your on Ethereum or on OpenSea or whatever.
Cool.
Well, even Uniswap, if you add liquidity to Uniswap using an account, using a wallet that you have claimed on Den, you get credit for that.
Dude, that's neat.
You get extra weight when you vote for DENDAO. You get extra weight based on, you've got liquidity, and that could be lore ETH liquidity, or that could be Matter ETH liquidity. One of them is the creator pool, and one of them is the owner pool. But yeah, you get all of that, and you don't have to like put your tokens in Den. You just keep them safely, self-custody. We don't need them to know that you have them, as long as you've claimed your wallet on Den. So that shit's pretty cool.
Cool. That's some blockchain magic right there. Awesome.
Yeah, it is, man. It's one of the reasons that it's designed that way, is to show, like, you can do it this way. You can do all this stuff in a way that lets people hang on to their own tokens, that kind of thing. So the next one is the two. I meant to go through that one faster, but oh well. This one, I wanted to actually ask a couple of questions on. I came up with this over the course of, with some help from others, of course, on the team, but also I have sort of taken it upon myself to publish these as they get to the point where they're working. Eventually, these will all be things that are on the official leaderboard, where anybody can go into their, for example, the current like metrics page or the payout section, where you can look at your own metrics and stuff. There's some stuff in there that is leaderboard-ish, and that's the stuff that this is going to get added to, right? So I would like to have a leaderboard not only for people that we just talked about, the leaderboard for top earners, people that have earned the most Matter or rewards on Den. I want to do that for all the different categories. There's different rewards pools, so they should probably all have their own leaderboard to say who's best at earning from, this or that leaderboard. One of those is
Robin's killing it,
evaluators.
man. Robin's
Huh?
killing it. Robin's like
Robin's
right
killing
away
it.
with it.
I gotta say, I was suspicious of Robin. I saw the scoring and was like, what the hell? That is such a, like, is this is like where I had to, I imagine the difficulty of objectively ranking subjective data, right? Because, and the reason I want to talk about this is to see if you have any other ideas of like what should be included in here. But basically, the way this is ranked, there's 4 main things that are spelled out in bullet points at the top. The scoring, first of all, the score itself is something that is only relevant to this leaderboard. It doesn't mean anything outside of the context of this leaderboard. It's just a way for me to assign different things a score that then can be calculated to give like an objective ranking. But things like the new evaluator rep system, there's a couple of things that are involved with that. One of them is your balance as an evaluator. If you're only ever voting up on content, that's great, but it's not necessarily as useful as someone who's taken their time to vote up and vote down on content. So to a degree, your balance of up to down votes gives you part of that score. There's also, and that's raw. That's no matter if you're with consensus or against consensus. It's just your up-down ratio.
Is
Now,
it ideal to have it like 50-50, or is there a
ideal is 50-50. Right now, it's really loose. It's not very strict at all. If you have a 1-8 or an 8-1 ratio of up and down votes, then you're good. You're golden, right? So that's what you want to shoot for right now, because it's just been introduced. We don't have a lot of like it's ultimately going to be a bell curve, right? But right now it's more of a square wave, if that makes sense.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. So if
Mhm.
you've upvoted 7, you should try to find one to downvote if you want to play that game.
Yep, exactly. If you want to improve your score as an evaluator, you want to make sure that if you haven't downvoted or if you haven't upvoted in a while, you're going to want to do that at least 8-1, that kind of thing.
That's cool.
So that doesn't take into account though if you're right. So what does it mean to be right? What does it mean to be accurate? Well, that's where with consensus and against a consensus comes into play. So another variable in there is a score that's based on how accurate you are, right? It's a ratio of with and against consensus evaluations. So if you're always voting stuff down just because you don't like it, and everybody else is objectively voting it up because maybe they don't like it either and maybe they don't agree with it, but it's a good contribution to the discussion. It's something worth talking about so that at the very least we can talk about why it's bad. That should still be voted up.
Right.
That means that you're wrong about your vote. Likewise, if there's something that is fine, it's not bad, right? There's nothing wrong with it. It's on topic and you voted up, but there's a bunch of other stuff that's just better that day, right? Then you're going to be against consensus because other people will be like, no, I gotta help my balance score. So I gotta find downvote somewhere. And this is where the competitiveness comes in too, where you might have decent content, but you might still be the least good and get some downvotes, which is fair. It's part of what will put pressure to increase the content quality and the timeliness and all of that stuff. Right.
And that'll ultimately drive, more people to come contribute and more people to come engage. And that's the goal.
Mm-hmm. And then the other 2 things there are not ratios necessarily, but the number of times you were correct. So those first 2 were kind of a ratio score, where the third one on that bullet list is a raw, like how many times did you vote with consensus, right? Regardless of if it's up or down, if you voted negative energy or you voted positive energy, how many times in that period, and this is 30 days, how many times in the past 30 days did you vote and it was with consensus? Or in other words, it was the community has decided that was right. So that's a score. And then also there's an average eval rep. What I mean by average eval rep is every single payout period, every single day, there is a new reputation calculated for everyone. And this is done so that, like, if you start getting a bad rep, you can get out of it. It's not sticky. Like, it fades away over time. Like, we naturally want people to, get a good reputation and lose it if they, change their behavior, or get a bad reputation, but then realize, oh, I should be doing it this way, and then improve their rep. Right.
Right. Or
So
you
that's
just have
done.
a bad hair day and you freak out and you vote
Yeah.
for a bunch of
Or you have a
bullshit
bad
out
mental
of
health
somebody.
day and you just rage on everything and it's against consensus, and you are just, whatever the reason. Everybody has a bad day. So it's designed so that people can, not get punished forever kind of thing.
Right.
We don't have to manually like intervene so much. Just let people have their bad day. And then, once their behavior gets more in line with what Den has spelled out as necessary to have a thriving community, it self heals over time. And so what we're able to do there is it's all on chain, right? Sorry, I got a fly buzzing around me. So we're able to say, like, cool, let's take your reputation from every single day, every single period over the past month, average them together. There's something else to use in this calculation. So all those get used in some way to come up with that score on the right. And this is the way that we came up with to try to be fair and objective in a admittedly difficult role to describe. Like, this, I guess what I'm saying is it wasn't straightforward to score this. It needs to be like, okay, how do you define good? What is a good evaluator? It isn't necessarily the person who's evaluated the most, or that kind of thing. Does that make sense to you, Greg?
Yeah, it does. Totally. I'm totally with you there, man.
Cool. So that'll be one that's the evaluator role. This will be the evaluators. A different role is tagging content. So in addition to voting on content, there's tagging of content as well. So that I imagine this will be used more in the future than it is today, where you can like sort by tags and stuff like that. We do have a few tags that are smart tags, that are special tags. So tagging is its own reward pool. It is incentivized. It is based on consensus, very similar to how the posts are evaluated, and it goes into a consensus. The tags are the same way. If you tag a piece of content as original, somebody comes around and says, wait, that's not original. That's not correct. And they vote on the tag. There's a little thumb. It goes up or down, right? Or it goes away. So if you see a tag that you don't agree with, you can click it once for the thumb up, twice it goes to thumbs down, and then you voted on that tag. If there is not a tag yet and you think it should be tagged with something that's available, you can pick the tag yourself. It'll go up there with a thumbs up because you voted on it. So to simplify that, there's two different categories of taggers. There are those who tag the content initially. In other words, they see something in the food layer that is spaghetti and meatballs, and it has no tags on it. So they want to, this doesn't have a tag on it. So they open up the list of tags, and each layer has their own tags, and they look through and they find the most appropriate tags. Maybe there's one for pasta, right? So they tag it. Boom, pasta. The other type of tagging participant will come along later, and they'll see the spaghetti and meatballs, and they'll see a tag on it that says pasta. And you would go, oh yeah, yep, that's pasta. And you click on the pasta tag, and it's like you confirming it. Yep, thumbs up. That's pasta. Or if somebody came around and was like, that's not pasta, you thumbs down to vote on it. So you didn't pick the tag yourself, but you're voting on whether that tag is appropriate or not. So that's
Gotcha.
a voter in this list. So there's taggers and voters. And I put a third one in there called combined, which is literally I added the two together at the end. Right.
So it's like seconding a motion, kind of like I moved to call this pasta, and
yeah,
this one's like seconded.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Yep. And so since that is done that way, we can also use consensus, with consensus or against consensus. So if you're a tagger that tags, for example, Belmar is really high up in the taggers list. Belmar posts a lot and she tags her own content. Usually it's the original tag. So she's ended up at the top because she always tags it, right? Maybe she tags other people's stuff too, but I'm just thinking that's probably one of the reasons that she's up there. And it's only looking at consensus too. So that means that she's put good tags on, appropriate tags for the content. The same thing with everybody on that list. Jacob Wayne, I am for I am, right? Being anywhere on this list is a good score.
Yep. That raises an interesting question about tags. This might maybe a little bit of a sidebar, but like,
Sure.
the unoriginal tag, is
Yes.
that meant to be like so boring, the passe / cliche, or is it meant to be like not original but repost or something like that? How's that meant to be interpreted?
That's something that that's a good question. So the non-original thing, I don't see it as something that's it's basically if you want to show something and you want to point out, hey, this is not my work, but look at it, it's so awesome. You can tag it as non-original.
Right.
It's also something. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
We're too polite. Okay. As I said, I just always wanted to be sure because like I don't want to call somebody's thing unoriginal, but if it's something that I've seen somewhere before, that's the right thing to use.
Yeah, hang on a second. I got to switch over the display real quick. DENDAO, boom, kapow. All right. Yeah. So let me pull this down for the moment. Cool. So yeah, the unoriginal tag. Yeah, some people. It's interesting. We're dealing with human beings here, and it's always interesting to me that sometimes something will happen or something will get tagged a certain way or something will get said a certain way, and it's almost always somebody who takes it as a personal attack, right?
Right.
And I can see that. I can see like, oh, this is non-original. I see it as something that is so there's different types of posts that you'll see on Den. One of them is well, there's a bunch of different types of posts, but for original and non-original, for that conversation. A non-original post might be something that literally is an article from somewhere else that you copied a bunch of it and pasted it into the body of the text and said, hey, check this out. It's
right.
And then you want to tag it as non-original so somebody doesn't think that you wrote that up. And this is more like being honest with the evaluators.
It's a way to claim that you're not attributable for it without necessarily having to have a citation system. Right.
Yeah. It's just basically somebody can tag their own content non-original just to say, hey, I'm not trying to plagiarize. I'm not trying to pass this on as my own work when it's not. So right. I see that used that way.
So this is another question then.
Yeah.
If there's a blend of that and your own original thought commenting on it, where does that fall down?
That's up to debate, I guess. It depends on how much
of the votes.
It's up to the vote. That's why it's consensus. Like, I don't know.
That's what I thought, but I wanted to ask it just to hear you say it. So
yeah,
cool.
Yep. And so then there's also snark, right? Which is what I was alluding to earlier, where somebody might have an original post with completely unoriginal talking points, like canned answers kind of thing. I've occasionally seen that, but that's more of I don't know. It's funny to me.
Yep. I have zero knowledge about snark, so there you go.
Yeah.
Boom. That was in fact a ZK Snarks pun for anybody.
I didn't even get that either. Zero knowledge about snarks. Here's a sidebar real quick. What does snark stand for again? Do you remember?
I have no idea. I don't remember.
Yeah, okay.
I just know it's a type of zero knowledge proof.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the unoriginal tag. And that's how we're scoring. That's how we're scoring taggers. People that are good at predicting what consensus will agree with, right? That's what you're supposed to be doing.
Cool. Well, thanks for that. I didn't mean to derail us. I had those questions, and I'm glad I had you here to answer them.
Not at all. I'm happy to derail. If you've ever sat in for an episode of coffee, I'm happy to derail at any point.
Cool. Well, I hope that other people have the same questions I did. So I always like to ask those if I can, if they're helpful.
Speaking of, last call for questions. Hyperion Frequency, thanks for joining us. What's up? What's up? I'm going to roll into some reminders and stuff. So if you want to throw something in chat or even reply to the agenda post, now would be the time to do that. I'll refresh my page at the end to make sure I didn't miss anything. Do you have anything else you want to talk about, actually, as far as community feedback and just general, like, that's why I don't think it's a problem for you to derail, because we're in the feedback and community input section. So that's what it's here for.
The only thought that I had is like, it might be neat to try to find a way to work in overall Den user growth to scoring evaluators as a multiplier. Like, 'cause over time, right? Like, the more quality content that exists, the more people are going to join. It's ultimately going to drive a flood, and the evaluators are sort of the first and last line of defense against making sure that happens. And it seems to me like I don't know how we would do it, but it would be cool if there would be a way to work that in.
You mean using the dynamic growth metrics of Den in general, like the number of accounts that are created per month or stuff
Right.
like
Or
the number of
acceleration and
posts or
change
things
of
like
them
that?
based on your percentage of contribution to ranking, something like that.
And this would be something that could be used in the scoring of evaluators, for example?
Right. Yeah. Like if you were, for instance, the top evaluator in a period where there was a record number of signups, you were probably more responsible for that.
Oh, so you're
Sort of
saying
thing.
basically, oh, that's a good point, because you're saying that given the same number of people who understand the evaluator role, if you
Yeah.
assume that a new person who signs up for Den does not yet know anything about Den, which is typically the case,
Right.
then it's up to the existing community of evaluators who do understand how it works to evaluate all of that new content, that kind of thing. And so you're
That
saying that
and
it's more
more
work
like
for the same number of people.
more like the content that, or the reason people are going to come is because people are probably, or at least one reason people might come, not all the reasons, is because they saw something that was posted on Den that they really liked, shared
Right.
somewhere else, or something like that, and or they come here and they remain active, for example, would be
Mhm.
another interesting way to maybe parse this. And it's
Okay.
because the content is so much better because the evaluators are engaged, and the engagement of a given evaluator over that period can then be said to be responsible for whatever proportion good content is responsible for bringing new people, right? So
Yeah, the content thing, and to touch on the originality or the original tag a little bit too. The most valuable type of content for Den is pure original content.
yeah.
Not only is it more interesting, but it's also really freaking good for SEO.
Oh yeah.
If you, because Den is indexed by the search engines, and I have
Right.
found things where, for example, I've often a few of us evaluators will copy something and paste it into a search engine to see if it shows up anywhere else. You know what I mean? Like, what is
Right.
this from? And plenty of times there'll be something that's really well written where I'm like, this
Hmm.
seems like a professional writer wrote this. I wonder if they copied it from an article somewhere and put it into Den.
Hmm.
And I'll search for it on Google or something, and I'll get hits. It'll come up, but it'll all be Den hits on
Right.
Google. So I
Right.
know that it works for, like, if you're looking into a certain topic, if you're researching a certain topic. This is why
Okay.
I think that the UFO and the aliens layers, for example, could be extremely valuable for, and conspiracy theories too, could be really
Right.
valuable for Den, because if people if people do even hold a conversation in the layer, that's part of the post that's going to get indexed eventually. That if somebody now is they watched a Graham Hancock show, or they watched
Hmm.
Ancient Aliens, or they watched
Right.
something and they want to do some more research on it, if they
Hell you're
start
three.
googling
Right.
around or binging around or chat gpting, maybe, I don't know, then at some
But
point they're
there's
going to
not a search
fall
engine. Yeah.
onto,
Right.
yeah, they're going to stumble upon Den, because there will be original content, original research that's been discussed, and then they'll learn about Den, right? So the more
Yeah.
original stuff, the more potential for organic exposure and growth.
Okay, that's awesome, and that also I think clears something up for me about the original tag that I had a little bit of gray on that I didn't even realize, which is like if I'm reposting something I've already written somewhere else, it should still go as non-original because that's not the original source.
Yeah, the tagging is subjective. You're
Yeah.
right. That's why we need consensus and why consensus is so powerful, because you can take something and the same tag could mean something different in different layers.
Gotcha.
You
Okay,
know,
yeah,
now
and that's fair. That's fair. Totally makes
generally
sense.
different layers have their own tags,
Yeah.
but there's a handful of them that exist for every layer.
Right.
Hello to I am for I am. If you have anything you want to chime in with, sir, just do it now because we're wrapping up.
And then last thought on that, like, so maybe rewarding, or maybe there should be some waiting for people who are voters who vote with consensus on the original tag, because that's helping SEO.
Yeah. Well, the tag itself isn't helping SEO. I just meant
But
that it's
right,
related
but
to that original tag to where it's good to identify all that stuff.
yeah, oh, exactly. I just mean like flowing through the chain of all the. I mean, a well tagged thing is
Mhm.
likely to to filter up to ultimately resulting in good content.
I think people generally do apply more energy to their votes when it's original content. And
Yep.
that's where the original tag, if the publisher themselves or the OP
Mhm.
doesn't tag their own content as original whenever they publish it, whenever they post it, it's just helpful for someone to do that for them because it's going to earn them more. Like, let's say it's great content, but it doesn't have an original tag on it, and you think that if it had original tag, people might vote it up more, and you want to
Yeah,
see it go up more. That's something where the original tag, if it's not there, you can tag it appropriately, and then people will see that and they'll be like, "Oh, this is original. Cool. I didn't. This is pretty good." You know, that kind of
that's
thing.
awesome.
They'll
Yeah,
add
no, that's
more
super
to
awesome.
their vote.
Oh yeah, cool. Thanks for again
Yeah.
entertaining my side boss.
No problem at all. In fact, I would love to go at length about all of this stuff at any point whenever you launch the Crypto Joe Rogan layer.
Game on.
You know,
I already think you're gonna be my
yeah,
first guest, so
I'm there, man. I'm 100% there. You know, AMA.
cool.
Well, cool. All right, we got some thanks, some good vibes from I am for I am. Thank you very much, sir. And yeah, go listen to the first part of this meeting too, because we went over some of the new leaderboard stuff, and I'm interested in your feedback, even though I think I've already asked you for it. Well, let's hit some reminders, and then we'll wrap up for today, and this will be the last live broadcast that we do until Tuesday when we announce the winning layers into Super Happy Dragon Lucky. So we've got. Let me make this bigger so it's more able to be read. All right. So we've got a handful of things that happen every week on Den. There is at least 4 different live shows. More than that, actually. I think there are between 1 and 3 over in the mighty layer itself, because Lisa and Sean do Truth Tuesdays, and I've seen her post that over in the mighty layer, and then she does New Normal and occasional one-off interviews too. But there's also on Tuesdays, not World Blockchain. Tuesdays is Super Happy Dragon Lucky, and these all have their own layers that have their own reward systems and their own DAOs in them. And you can get updates on Dragon Chain and on Den on Tuesdays, 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific. And there's also always an AMA in that too. So that is a very knowledgeable blockchain personality offering AMA every week, typically about Dragon Chain or Den, but I've seen him entertain other questions on there too. Those are ranked, so go vote on the questions that end up in those posts as well. It's in the Dragon Chain layer, and you do get lot ownership of the Dragon Chain layer for adding questions that get answered on the shows.
Cool stuff.
On Wednesday, I do a show in the morning called Coffee with Den. It's a casual, half awake. Sometimes we talk about the topic, but really it's there for denizens to come in and chat about Den and to chat about stuff that's going on and maybe get to know each other, or maybe pick apart something that's you've been working on. But it's just a coffee meetup. over in the Coffee with Den layer. I've been also putting some morning like coffee news type posts in there. Those are meant to be just like a few random things that I've read on the internet, and then anybody else can reply to that to get like, hey, what did you read this morning, or what's on your radar this morning, and a link to it. So that's a pretty cool little. There's been some people participating in that, so we get a little link list of stuff to read about if you haven't heard about it. Here's, what's going on in your world, that kind of thing. So that's at 9 a.m. Eastern. If you are up early on the West Coast, that's a 6 a.m. show for you. And there's always a link to join the call, just like there is for this one. There's a link to join the call there. And that is a much longer format where we can talk about stuff that is important to you. And then Thursday, we've got two different things. One is World Blockchain Roundtable, which I mentioned earlier already, but we had a really good show today. And there's a proposal up in the World Blockchain Roundtable layer in the governance section. If you have any lot, it'll just show up in your governance area when you click on the governance gavel. And I'll just do that now. I've already voted on it, but I'll bring them up real quick. So there's two GIs open for World Blockchain Roundtable. One of them is to go ahead and make John the Master of Ceremonies permanently. Of course, if he's not available, somebody else will still fill in. But we think he's been doing a really good job of hosting that show, and he is willing to continue helping us to make that better and more engaging and more interesting, right? So it looks like we have almost 50%. So we're at 43.5% right now. Go vote to deny it or to approve it. And when either of those reaches 50% or more than 50%, it will resolve. So if we get that resolved before next week, then we'll have our host. Cool.
And if you're thinking about voting deny, watch today's episode before you do. Because
go watch him host first. Today was fantastic. Yeah. The other one has the same amount of votes. It looks like the same people have voted, and they're all in favor of this so far, which is really cool. This was a more fundamental change to the show, where World Blockchain has been an hour and a half, sometimes 2 hours, somewhere in there. And the current event section has been at the very beginning of the show. And then we go into, and that's about a half an hour or so. And then after that, we have an hour for questions, etc. So we talked about it. We debriefed a little bit after the show today, and we talked about, we've had a lot of discussions about how to improve things, right? And this is one of them. And I don't know who it was, but somebody came up with the idea of using Twitter Spaces and moving the current events segment to the end of the show, having the World Blockchain show that's on YouTube and on Den and stuff like that, and on Twitter. That show still happens, but it's reduced to 1 hour instead of an hour and a half. And instead of having current events at the very beginning of the show, we do the show go right into topics that are blockchain specific, that are topic specific, and have the questions waiting for us to answer. Go ahead and do that as a straight blockchain roundtable show. And then at the end of the 1 hour, we can switch over to Twitter Spaces. And that can act as our current events, that can act as our after hours, and that can really carry on for as long as everybody wants to stick around talking, which could get interesting. You know what I mean?
And the cool thing about that, right, like is layer owners and people who vote and people who ask questions and people who actually participate are going to be the folks who get to come up on stage first. I mean, everybody can, but we'll be emceeing the Twitter space. So if you're active in the layer, then you'll be able to be prioritized in the Twitter space.
Yeah, 100%. And the other reason that I think that's interesting is because at the top of that Twitter Spaces, we can open up coming out of World Blockchain, right? And since we're on Twitter, I think we'll get different people just stopping in to see what we're talking about. And so naturally, we're going to do a little debrief at the beginning and say, oh, that was a good episode, or that was a terrible episode, or that was whatever. And that acts, that acts as also like a reminder and an advertisement to people on Twitter saying, hey, there's a show. if you don't know, we do this when we're coming out of the World Blockchain Show. You know what I mean? And so I think that that's probably a good driver from Twitter to get people to check out the show too. So we'll try it out, I think. It looks like it's got enough to almost pass already. So if this passes before next week, then we'll do next week in that format. So if you're for it, go ahead and vote and push us over the threshold.
Yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun, guys. So if you are in the lair, or if you haven't been in the lair yet, come over and check it out. And yeah, I'm excited about this change because Twitter Spaces are a lot of fun. If you've never been in one, I recommend it.
Yeah, yep, they are. That's my favorite part about Clubhouse is Twitter Spaces. Because that's where Twitter Spaces came from, as I remember it. Clubhouse got popular, and then Twitter was like, "Oh, we should do that."
Yep,
and they did, and that's what everybody uses now.
So, yeah, they did it way better. It's funny.
Yeah, I think it's great. So then the last thing is not a show, but just this governance call that we're on right now. The DENDAO calls are hosted in the DENDAO layer on Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern or noon Pacific time. And we'll see when we go into doing the Twitter Spaces after hours, after show for World Blockchain. If that drags on for a while, it could run right into this, and I have to just hop over. So that'll be interesting. I don't think it will. That'd be a long drawn out one, but it's possible. If we're saying that, marathon. Yeah, if we get on, man, if there's something going on and we get on a tangent, who knows?
Yep.
So that is that's the reminders. So let me refresh real quick and see if there's any more input there. Nope, that's it. Cool. So check out those things. Get involved. Look at the leaderboard updates over in the Den layer. Make what you will out of that, and try to place yourself higher. See if you can figure out how to turn the gears and levers and knobs and stuff in a way that benefits you more and more. Because ideally, that would mean you're doing all the things that Den needs people to do to grow. I like to think of it, the roles of a denizen, the roles that are the rewards pools and stuff. I like to think of that as basically the same thing that a traditional company would need to do when they hire people. They would have to hire for different roles and say, here's how you do your job, right? And so that's, if you think of it in that way, I think that you'll end up scoring really high on the leaderboard. Other than that, that's what I got. Anything else, Greg?
Nope, just keep doing what you're doing, guys. Like this leaderboard thing should drive a lot of helpful information to folks who really want to build this with us and make it better. And I'm excited to see where it goes, because when you look back at where we've been, it's come a long way. So
yeah, for sure. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to roll on the way out. I'm going to roll. Usually I do Enter the Dragon from Y'all Weird, but I'm going to roll there's an old rewards metrics ad that we haven't really done in a while, because that's where the leaderboard is going to ultimately end up, is adding to that. And I like this one because it shows like, oh, it used to look like that, right? And it's going to change even more. It'll take a little while still to get the leaderboard like fully shipped to where everybody can click and look at it themselves and get up-to-date information, on the fly. There's a lot of stuff going on, but we're getting there. So here's how the rewards metrics used to look. And I guess I'll just say that and get out of here, huh? Thanks again to Juicy J and Hyperion Frequency and I Am for I Am for sitting in on the call, and also for helping out on Den all the time. So I appreciate that too. All right. Bye, y'all. Have a good one.
Cheers, on.
See you later.
goal will serve to organize and measure the best.
Adaptable, raw capital, label radical yet rational. A tactical approach is palpable if this animal is fallible, but that conclusion is laughable. So with for all detachable from the mandible, you see it now.